What's up, everybody? I'm here in the car with Karl Weische, Mr. Accelerator Agency himself, and we want to use this opportunity to deliver a vlog, day in the life question and answers video from the man himself. Because if you read something online about something like conversion rate optimization or A/B testing, just someone mentioning someone on Twitter, this guy always gets tagged when this topic is mentioned. And if you look at his case studies, you might think, okay, it's valid, but if you experience it from the inside, like I did in the last couple of months and years with joint projects, we had the pleasure in experiencing what it is like to work with Accelerator Agency ourselves, and I wanted to use this opportunity to shine with the flashlight on his service delivery, because you might think, okay, he just has some awesome case studies, but is full of shit like a lot of other agency owners. Let's find out if that is the case. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so much for the nice introduction, bro. I'm excited for the kind of questions you brought today, and yeah, I mean, I appreciate you keeping it real and also making it a bit like criticizing, because like we've been in the space, especially like the e-commerce space and the service space, like you and I, we've been in it for like the past 5, 6, 7 years. And there's like so many people you see come and go, so many people making the most outrageous claims in terms of how much revenue they've generated, the case studies they work with or whatnot. If you're in the space for a long enough time, you see them come and go. But that's why I also feel like a lot of brands and a lot of people have like a really, really bad perception of agencies or anything that has to do with like service providers. So bro, I'm all yours. Make it like really, really criticizing. Those are the questions that are going to be the most interesting, I suppose.
Okay, perfect. Let's start with a banger. We saw all your case studies with like Coconut Beauty, $100 million brand, KinoBuddy, DoD, and all of those big names.
Yeah.
How factual and recent are those names? Are you still working with a lot of those brands, or is it just like collecting stamps and putting them in your report?
Good question. It's funny you asked that question, because we get this a lot in the calls, especially with like the huge names like the OD, like Coconut, like KinoBuddy, or also like Alex Hormozi, just because there's like a lot of other agencies who have those names on their website or on their pitch deck or whatnot, and it's like a lot of names in the space are just being like thrown around. It doesn't mean anything, because most of those cases are like completely outdated. For us, for like most of the projects, we've been working with them exclusively for like over a year. With the OD, for example, over 2 years now. And yeah, like all of those cases you mentioned, like Coconut, KinoBuddy, like we're still working with them to this day. I mean, you are also on those projects. We brought you in like pretty quickly on those projects, and it's like we don't have enough time as like business owners, as marketers, to like share everything all day long like what we do. But yeah, like those cases are still relevant, and we still work with them, and we still get them results every single day, because otherwise they would probably already have left to another agency. But to all you people out there, update your case studies, update the brands you show on your website, because most likely they are with us now, or they have been with us for the past years.
Because sometimes I see some agencies running some case studies or some references on their website, and then I'm reading that and I'm like, dude, we had a check-in call about them last week. They're active on your site. Like, yeah. How the fuck is this agency coming into play?
Literally.
Okay, perfect. First question, answered. Second question. You are very amended about only working with 7 and 8 figure brands, more likely 8 figure brands and above. Is that because you can't deliver if they're smaller, because you want some easy wins, or because you want to write some huge checks?
I like that question. So the thing is, it has to do a bit with all of that. It's the main thing is with the service we do, meaning conversion optimization, with A/B testing, with landing pages. It only starts making sense for e-commerce brand owners to focus on that / invest into those efforts at some point in the business, right? Because all that CRO, like conversion optimization, does is increase the performance of what's already there, right? Increase the performance of the traffic and of all of the people you push to a funnel. So for example, if a brand is at like 50K a month, 100K a month, then of course you can work with that, and of course you can increase that by some percentage points, like 10-20%. But in absolute numbers, it's like not a crazy day or night difference, right? So that's the main reason that I like to have an entry barrier for the Surface of like 500, 600K a month in consistent revenue, just because I know that for every party involved it makes sense, right? Because obviously the brands are paying us a premium.
Yeah.
The brands are paying us for like bringing in a 6-people team, which is like a retainer that starts at 10,000 a month, right? Which is like it's a pretty high price point. So I want to be able.
Expensive.
Yeah, some people are shocked if I tell them it's 10K a month.
At least.
Yeah, so it's a high price point for us to be able to deliver this service and still have like margins and all that stuff. And therefore, I also want the brands to be able to receive like a solid ROI based on what they pay us, right? If I get a 10% increase for a brand that's doing 100K a month, that's nice, but that would not even cover like the retainer that they pay. But if I get the exact same service, the exact same 10% increase to a brand that's doing $1 million a month, right? In absolute numbers, that would mean that we got them another 100,000, which would pay the retainer, and with their marginal structure, still get them like a nice ROI on the additional profit they got, right? So at that stage, it's like a no-brainer for all of the parties involved, and that's why also all of these like big brands you mentioned earlier stay on for long. And that's the main reason. So like the nature of conversion optimization. It's not performance marketing, it's not email marketing or something that you can just scale like crazy. It's working with like the traffic that's on the page. So like the results that we do are always based on like how much volume a store is pushing, right?
So every time you describe your service, someone would say, okay, I can maybe imagine what conversion rate optimization is. Maybe it's restructuring the menu, it's split testing some colors, and then it's running a pop-up with a 10 instead of 5% discount code. No. Is that all that is to it, to CRO? Or would you say your service delivery, how does it compare to like hiring a developer who is implementing a split testing tool? Because I can get a developer for like $1,000 a month.
Yeah, it's a valid question. Like the best analogy I can give is like it's a difference if you're driving a Volkswagen Golf than driving like a Porsche GT3 RS, right? And it's also a difference if you want to get it on the Autobahn or if you want to drive like Formula One. And that's the best analogy I can give, because if you're not working with a lot of revenue, let's say you have a brand that's doing 100, 200K a month, yeah, obviously you can get a developer and you can get them to do some split tests that are just out of your mind, right? Or that's just some idea that you have. But if you have a brand that's doing $1 million, $2 million, or $3 million a month, right, a lot of volume that you are going to have an impact on with the stuff that you do, then you should hire someone who knows what they're doing, who have like SOPs for everything. Because, and that's like one really important thing with conversion optimization and A/B testing, most of the people just think in, okay, I do CRO, I have a positive impact, right? Like I do changes to the page, I have a positive impact, I improve my conversion rate. But the other case is also true, right? If you change the wrong stuff on your website, you are going to have a negative impact. And like with the higher you are in terms of revenue, the higher you are in terms of overall volume, the larger the effect, the negative effect, right? Like if you hire a random freelancer, a random developer, and he just implements stupid stuff, right? That's not research or that's not based on solid CRO principles, then that can have like a big negative impact, right? And that's like the main thing that differentiates us, that we have like a 6-person team just to conduct like a test, right? Like there's so much going into doing one change on your website that like people don't see on the service level. And I also have like a big personal problem with like a lot of content creators out there that like share stuff around conversion rate optimization, landing pages, and split testing, because like the common sense around CRO is like, it's let's change a button color, let's add payment providers, let's add some trust badges, and let's add a progress bar to the cart, right? That's like
mind-blowing.
That's like the common sense of conversion optimization. I'm like, that's like the furthest you could be from like actual conversion optimization, right? Like just to kind of condense it or summarize like what it actually is, it's it's like a really, really deep understanding of the market, of the target audience, and like their psychology and exactly the customer journey, right, in terms of data points, and then based on those data points coming up with individualized iterations to the page, right, to like align the customer journey with exactly the person you're showing it to, and then over time going closer and closer to like the best state of the art website that it can be, to like really resonate with your target audience in terms of their pain points, their beliefs, their motives, desires, the language they speak, the tonality, the images, the design, and all of the flow, right? And that's what like actual CRO is, and that's also what split testing is, that you just want to make hypotheses around like this is going to work with the target audience, then you test it, and then you iterate. And you just go in like sprints along those process again and again and again to like consistently fine-tune the website and the customer journey so that it feels like a really native experience for the target audience, and it also like just resonates with them. And this like message market fit and the resonating part is so important, and that's what like most CRO people don't understand. They think, I will slap some trust badges, I will slap some payment providers on the website. That's an A/B test, that's CRO. Like, no, bro, it's not. Like, I don't know what you're doing or why somebody's hiring you, but that's not it.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, had to.
Next question. You're working with a lot of brands from multiple verticals.
Yeah.
You're working with my competitor. Why should I still work with you?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, either your competitor is getting all of this knowledge and is getting a good conversion rate, or you can have some piece of the cake too, right? Like best example is, for example, supplements. Like you and I, we pretty much share all of the big German supplement brands.
Yep.
We have every single big German supplement brand. Everything from 5 million a year to 10 million a year, 20 million, 50 million to a couple 100 million a year. We literally have like every single big German supplement brand. And the thing is that it's so important, right? Because either way you can buy into this competitive advantage, you can buy into having this advantage of like improved conversions, improved average order value, or you're not going to, and then your competitor is going to, right? It's not that we are going to share sensitive data, sensitive information if we have two brands in the same niche, right? Obviously not. Like there's like NDAs in place and everything, but you can either also have this competitive advantage or you're going to be left behind. That's like the straightforwardest I can.
And for clarification, we have a pretty similar setup company there, that we have multiple customer success pods. So the same competitors are not managed by the same developers.
Yeah.
So especially on your side, because you have a very big team, you make sure that nothing is leaked in between, right?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, like we have a fulfillment team of over 30 people, so we have multiple different pods, and then if we have brands in the same niche, that we just distribute them to different pods, right? So that we can make sure that like the data, the sensitive information, the stuff we do is like really separated from the pods, and we never have like the same person working on like two brands that are like competing with each other.
Interesting. So your company is still growing. I mean, it's growing like never before, actually. Yeah. And doesn't the service quality suffer when you take on so many big clients?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the main way that we grew over the past 2 years is not necessarily just quantity, meaning like amount of team members or amount of clients in our portfolio, but rather quality and also the price that we charge for the service. So over the past 2 years, the team didn't grow much. It grew from 35 to 41, right, which is not much over like a span of 2 years. And the client portfolio always stayed between like 26 to 30 brands. So the only thing we did basically over the past 2 years is like switch out like the smallest clients whenever we put like new big clients on top, and then also constantly increase prices over time. So we went from like 4 years ago, we started with like 1K per month, 2K, 3K, 5K, 7K, and we just kept pushing up prices. And for us, like we are also not going to expand like the team or like the portfolio size of the brands we work with. Again, over like until end of this year, we may put like 5 or 10 more on like next year, right? But that's stuff for the future, just so we can make sure we don't grow too quickly, right? Because with SaaS or with e-com or stuff, like you can grow way quicker than like a professional service agency, just because the scale in an agency is always based on like your headcount or your client portfolio count, or like the prices you're able to charge. So the way that we grew in terms of revenue, in terms of profits over the past 2 years, was more us in the background working on the service delivery, work on the results and the output, and then based on that also increase our retainers, right?
Okay, that's a very thoughtful answer, and I think it can alleviate some concerns on some people. So the next question is from my side. In service delivery, you try to optimize for your own operations.
Yeah.
I just love those Taycan accelerations. Do you have favorite clients? Clients who get a better service delivery, and some clients make it very hard to ask a question. Do you have favorite clients that get more work done, or do you have you try to do an equal service delivery for all of them, even though they're not famous like Jose?
Good question. For me, it's I have certain brands that I really like, just because, for example, some of the brands we're working with, like I already consumed their products like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years before I started working with them. So that's always like some form of like, I wouldn't call it like a fanboy moment, but some form of like validation, right? Like
Going full circle.
Yeah, coming full circle, exactly. For me, obviously we had those like nice hero cases like DoD, like Alex Hormozi, like KinoBuddy, and all of those other big brands, which is like, it's super nice to have. The interesting thing about those cases is that from the brand team / like the founders were also like the nicest to work with, right? It's like really interesting because you'd think it's a case study brand and that stuff, and maybe they're harsh or cruel or like ruthless or something, but they've been like so nice to work with. So I really appreciated working with those, or still working with those. I would say like nowadays I rather base it on like founder fit than like me obsessing with like a certain brand in terms of revenue or in terms of products or like market size or whatnot. So for me, I have like the most enjoyment out of cases where it's like a good mutual understanding of like what we do and also appreciation, right? So for example, the acquisition.com team, like we directly worked with the CMO and everything with like so many check-in calls, and they were so appreciative of everything and so understanding and just like good solid business people, right? Yeah. And like I enjoy working on those projects the most where it's like that. I don't like the anonymous or like too distance projects. Rather have like the really like where both sides just really want to push and grow.
Next question is about failure. So, is every project that you do a success, or could I also hire you and never have a failed A/B test?
That's a really good question. So
because I'm only interested in tests that deliver 3x ROAS, and I don't want to lose money on tests.
Yeah, good point. So here's the thing, and this is also why we have this like barrier of entry for the brands you work with. At a certain point, it comes down to maths and statistics, right? Let's say we work with any given brand for 6 months. We conduct 30 tests over the 6-month period, and on average we have like a 40% win rate, right? Worst case scenario, we may have a 20% win rate or something, which means that from the math and statistical perspective, like worst case scenario would be that 6 out of 30 tests would be winners and would have like a positive impact over the 6-month period. Those positive impacts vary from like 5 to 20%, right? Meaning with a brand, if the brand is doing like 1 million per month, it's going to do at least 6 million over the 6-month period, with us in the worst case scenario delivering 6 tests that each have like a positive impact of like 5 to 20%. We still have a solid ROI on like the service fees, right?
So I can't just skip the tests that are failing.
No, that would be too easy. I mean, it's the same with creatives, right? Like you also cannot just skip creatives. Like you cannot just go and create winning creatives. Like then life would be too easy if we could all just swallow the magic pill.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Walk me through a client who stopped working with you maybe it was even a fault from your team, and walk me through what you did to improve your service based upon that.
Good question. We had one client, just also for reasons of the client, I'm not going to mention a name. We worked with them for 6 months, and that was beginning of 2023. And it was like a mixture of a couple of aspects, and like one of the main aspects was that we did a bad hire. So we hired somebody who we perceived to be really solid throughout the HR process and doing the onboarding and everything. So we basically gave him this brand, which was like a really solid brand, but then he ended up not performing well. And the mistake from our side that we realized, and which was also super, super helpful, was that we didn't have like solid tracking processes in place to track employee performance. So it was
funny because you're tracking customer
performance. Yeah, like you have hundreds of KPIs for like customer performance, but then you don't have KPIs for employee performance. Like, how ironic. But that was like a huge leap for our agency, because we only caught it after like 3 to 4 months. But imagine as a client signing, and like the agency gives you like a bad account manager, you work with them for 3 to 4 months over a 6-month period. Whatever they're doing in like the last month, you're not going to extend, right? So we tried everything that we could to like keep them on board. We switched the account manager and everything, but it was too late. And I can also totally respect the decision of the brand we worked with, who said like, we were just burned from like the whole onboarding and like you giving us a bad account manager. So it was like such a big learning, because it was like a big fail for us, because it was like a big client too. And like after that, it took us around like 1 to 2 months to like come up with KPIs for like every single position, which now we are taking like every second week. So like every second week, like each position is being tracked by like certain KPIs, right? And the KPIs of like each position of the team play into the like bigger KPIs of the whole team, and that play into the bigger KPIs of like the department of the company. So it was like a super big leap, and it was amazing that it happened. And I also feel like the biggest fails, or like the biggest fuck ups in business, lead to like that progress, if that makes sense, because you only learn from mistakes. So at the end of the day, it's like really sad that we're not working with this brand anymore, but we also made like a big progress based out of that. And up until this day, like this KPI tracking was super, super helpful to be implemented.
Perfect. So I would bring on a question that is, I think, kind of an objection that you receive a lot, because we're talking about our sales processes a lot too. Why should, let's say I'm a brand owner, I'm doing 600-700K per month. I try to professionalize everything. I have a great agency in place for paid media. I have a great in-house media buyer in place. But I want to release some products in the future. I want to expand into multiple countries, and I want to do some landing pages and editorial stuff. I have so much on my plate. I discovered your content on Twitter, and just from understanding it makes sense to start with you. I still have the feeling I want to wait and get my business in place first in order to maximize the cooperation with you. I'm such a bad co-driver. Holy shit. Why should I start with you now when I'm on your level? Or why shouldn't I just wait for 6 more months, because then everything will be way more easy to pay you?
Good question. So just to summarize, because I was really focused on not crashing.
Why should I have urgency hiring you instead of trying to solidify my business for a couple more months?
Good question. So if you're around like the 600-700K a month mark, it starts really making sense investing into CRO. That's why I also have the barrier of entry, right? If you had like 300-400K, start focusing or focus more budget on like paid ads, performance marketing, creatives, all that stuff. At like 600-700K, again, from like the math perspective, it starts making sense to invest in the CRO, just because of like the leaps you're going to do based on the insights you generate with A/B testing, with the data intelligence, and also being able to use those insights for performance marketing, right? If we make improvements to the website, if we split test certain copywriting, certain value propositions, certain offers, certain images, designs, whatever, we can then also play it back to like the paid acquisition, and we can also give it to retention marketing. So overall, it's not only going to improve like the website KPIs, but it's also going to help you make better decisions for performance marketing and better decisions for like retention marketing, right? Which really pays more into like the overall brand value. So it helps you accelerate the growth, if that makes sense.
So I should start now if my revenue is stable.
Yeah, revenue has to be stable. So you shouldn't peak at like 600K for 1 month, then go back to 200K and then say, let's start. It has to be stable, and it should also not dip below that again.
Perfect. So the last but very loaded question, is your guarantee fake? It sounds so awesome. You deliver a 3x ROI or I get my money back.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fucking scam.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds too good to be true. It's supposed to be a no-brainer offer. I also don't mention it too much anymore. I used to push it a lot, but I have like so many copycats that I always want to be different from the market, so I stopped mentioning it. But it's true. Like we have like a 3x ROI guarantee, meaning on like every dollar you pay us, you have to get a 3x ROI in additional revenue, and that's just from like the CROs changes that we make and like the additional revenue that we can attribute to that, right? So none of the stuff you do in performance marketing, retention marketing, whatever, only the stuff that we do that actually impacts the revenue and bottom line, right? So the 3x ROI, it's like, for us, we always go around like a 4 to 6x ROI in the first 6 months. So like the 3x ROI is like the worst case scenario.
It's too easy.
It's too easy. This shit too easy. But no, it's like, it's also again easy to calculate. Again, coming back to like a brand that's doing $1 million a month, let's say, 6 million over 6 months, for us to not improve that by like 5%, which would already be like a 300K in additional revenue and like a 5x or something on the service fees, right? With only a 5% improvement. So it's we can pretty quickly go to a 3x ROI with the brands we work with like the CRO stuff.
Yeah, that's a damn no-brainer. So the last thing that I understand now, but when we started working together, I was not too sure about it. What do you actually do? Like, it's not just changing layouts on the website, because I saw some projects where you did some crazy product pages. Yeah. I saw some projects where you did an insane advertorial. Yeah. And those kind of service deliveries are not the same. Like, why do you choose to deliver some level of optimization to one brand and one level of optimization to another brand? Because there are landing page agencies, there are A/B testing agencies, but you cover a lot of them.
Yeah, really good question. I like to think about that as more of like a toolkit where we can take out certain tools and use it for like certain brands. And that's also like one of the problems I have with like a lot of agencies. They try to fit like every single brand into the same blueprint. They go to like every single brand and they say, you need a landing page, you need an advertorial, you need this, you need that, you need UGC. Like, no. Like every brand needs something different, right? It's always based on their niche, their market, their target audience, their revenue level, brand history, and so many different things. So we always base what we give brands based on what they need and how we can best get results. That's like the most straightforward answer. In terms of the execution, I don't want to make it too complicated, so like just in like 2-3 sentences, we basically laid down this whole CRO process similar to like a car manufacturer, and then just hired people for like every single part of the process based on the skill sets we need to execute it. So we basically build like 6 people teams, and we take those 6 people teams and plug it to like any brand we work with, and they 100% take over CRO. So we have like an account manager, we have a data analyst, we have a conversion specialist, designer, developer, and quality assurance person. So this 6 people team just takes care of executing CRO. We don't need any resources from the brand. We don't need anything from any external provider. We can just take this team, plug it into any brand, and as long as the brand does enough revenue, we get them results. That's like really straightforward, like what we do basically.
So you have the toolkit, and then you decide in collaboration with the founder what is needed the most, Or is it something like make a wish, it's like a buffet, everyone can choose, I want those awesome relaunches, I want a rebranding, I want everything in between?
Good question.
Or do you tell the founder that his ideas are stupid?
I'm at the point where I'm really straightforward. A lot of times people are driven by shiny objects, so it takes a bit of time to like help them navigate around those shiny objects. Because also so many people say, you need landing pages, you need this, you need that, and then the founder thinks, I need landing pages, I need a redesign, when in reality, they only need like a really solid CRO testing program, for example, right? So the way that I like to go about it is make it like a really data-driven process, in the sense that we do like a deep dive into the brand for around 2 weeks, look at the market, look at competition, and look at all of the brand data points that we can get, and based on that, suggest an execution and suggest a roadmap. Obviously, the founder has to be on the same page with that and confirm that. But we are not just going to do what the founder tells us to, because at the end of the day, a brand pays us for the expertise and for having it done hundreds of times, and we also are responsible for the results. So if the founder, based on seeing a shiny object, says I need a redesign, I'm going to tell him, no, the data says this, you need this, we're not going to go the redesign route. If you want to do redesign, then don't work with us, right? And I already do some of that stuff in the calls before we start working on a project together, just because I want to make sure that there's like a founder fit and there's not going to be like discussions down the lane. Like I want somebody works with me, I want them to like trust me and say, okay, let's work on this together, but I trust you, I will give you like the lead on the project.
So you collected a lot of awesome case studies, references, you spoke on every stage imaginable in the e-com space. Why still improve? Do you even want to improve this year? Like what are your goals for this year and the next year after that? Or do you want to just quit the agency, take all the money and move to Bali?
That's probably like the last thing I want to do. But good question, I really like that question. I'm really driven by competition, and I'm really driven by always wanting to be or become the best. So that's also like one thing that we focus on with the agency, to become number one. And like a pretty quickly time span, we became the biggest CRO agency in Germany. The next step is to become the biggest agency that's focused on like D2C, so e-commerce space worldwide, right? Like there's a couple of players that are still bigger than us, but they have also been in the game for like 10, 15 years longer than we have, where also like the founding team is not like end 20s, but like mid 40s or 50s.
You're like end teens.
Yeah. Bro, and it's but I like that. I like that kind of competition, and I want to continue to push being the biggest personal brand in this space, continue to expand the YouTube, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, all of the education platforms that we have, just so we can still be the thought leader in the market, right? For me, it's not being the underdog anymore, like being on the rise or something. Like I really want to expand on a thought leadership position, like to be able to educate the market, help the market, and then we can work with the people who are at 8 figures, right? And like all of the other ones, like the whole market is benefiting from the stuff that we put out in terms of the cases, in terms of the education and the knowledge. And then we just work with like 30, 35, over like the hundreds of thousands of people in the audience, right? Pretty similar to like the Alex Hormozi model. And yeah, that's like our drive. Like it's the competition. It's like wanting to be the best, wanting to have the best status, wanting to be like the most prestigious agency with like the biggest cases and the nicest case studies. So that's what we are working on. We've always had like a really boutique done for you agency. We have some projects in the pipeline that are also going into the direction of like a done with you service, or like a SaaS service that would be more applicable to like a wider audience, just because we have turned down like hundreds, maybe thousands of people at this point, just because like the audience is so big and so many people want us to help them, but we can only take like 25 to 30 brands at any given moment. So that's potentially something that's going to make a big dent in this space in like the next year or two. So yeah, I'm really excited about that, but continue to improve, become better. That's like the biggest drive. And then also, as soon as we make it to like the biggest like person / like the biggest business in the CRO space, like continue to capitalize on that and build on that.
And moving to Bali afterwards?
No, like Bali was never and is never going to be on the roadmap. I am never going to be like the person to just like chill on the beach and stuff. Like I want to grind, I want to work. I mean, you're pretty similar in terms of like how you think and work.
No ketamine?
No, no ketamine, no frog,
No frog
poison,
no LSD?
no LSD, no coke.
Just espresso?
Yeah, just espressos, some nice cigars, some quick cars.
Okay, closing thoughts. Basically, firing questions at you sold me as a 7-figure business owner to work with you, but I'm not at 8 figures yet. What should I be focusing on to get to that level as soon as possible to start working with you? What are my main levers to pull to move from low 7 figures to 8 figures a year to really start taking this matter serious?
Good question. From the CRO perspective, like just take all of the education content that's on my channel or like on my socials and just apply that. The most important aspects are going to be have like one or a couple of really solid end-to-end funnels with like really great creatives and like really great landing pages for like your hero offers. Don't over obsess with like the nitty-gritty shit, like making everything pixel perfect or something. But rather work on like the big leverage activities like this end-to-end funnel, really great hero products, really deep understanding of the target audience and the market in terms of what to do, and the like going to like 400, 500, 600K a month. Like you don't even need to touch a lot on CRO or landing pages, right? Like the biggest lever you can pull is driving solid paid acquisition, right? Solid creators, a lot of creative testing, a lot of offer testing, and then having somewhat of like a solid funnel to like convert the people. But like the biggest thing is going to be like your paid acquisition efforts in terms of channels, in terms of creatives, in terms of angles and offers. And again, like all of the low-hanging fruits, I have like so many videos on my channel, so I touch upon landing pages, low-hanging CRO fruits that like everyone can implement. And then once you're at the stage where you have enough volume, you can then start obsessing with like the smaller fine-tuning.
That's a pretty good pointer. So it's basically doing just the major activities, because the payoff in mastering one solid paid acquisition channel will be way higher than starting to test some button colors.
Exactly.
Perfect. Carl, I really appreciate you taking the time of answering critical questions that I saw under some of your videos, under some of your Twitter posts. I think you gave a lot of great context about your agency and what your goals are with that. Do you have anything, closing thoughts to say to your audience? Because I'm about, when we do a new launch control, I'm
Okay, let's do the last one. No, I'm kidding. Closing thoughts are validate the sources you listen to, validate the content creator you're listening to. Don't take free content is not free. That's my point. Like free content is not free. Like everyone has an agenda. You should validate the person you're listening to, or you should validate the content creator before you consume the content or execute on the content, because listening to the wrong person can take so much of your time and can take you more years to get to where you want to go. So make sure that the person you're listening to, whether that's Facebook ads, whether it's email marketing, whether that's mindset, whether that's fitness, whether it's CRO, whatever, make sure they are validated, make sure they have a successful business, make sure they have successful cases, because otherwise you're going to waste a lot of time.
That's some good closing thoughts. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking your time.
For sure,
really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Soon on the channel. Oh no!